Have you ever ended a long day feeling utterly exhausted, not from physical labor, but from the invisible weight of other people's expectations? You lie in the quiet darkness of your bedroom staring at the ceiling, replaying a minor conversation from the afternoon. You wonder nervously if you said the wrong thing, if your colleague silently judged your tone, or if your oldest friends secretly disapprove of your recent life choices. This constant, quiet anxiety is the modern human condition. We are profoundly social creatures, biologically wired to seek tight belonging within a tribe. But in our hyper-connected modern world, this natural survival instinct has mutated into a heavy iron chain. We spend an enormous amount of our precious daily energy trying to decipher what others think of us. We carefully curate our digital lives to project continuous success, and we often make massive life and career decisions based entirely on what will look impressive to our families, rather than what brings us quiet, sustained joy. In this relentless pursuit of external recognition is an unending, exhausting treadmill. No matter how much praise you manage to gather, the lingering fear of losing it forces you to keep running even faster. You mold yourself to fit cleanly into the rigid shapes defined by society, slowly chipping away at your own authentic outline. But what if the actual key to true mental liberation is not gaining universal approval, but actively learning how to disregard it? What if the heavy burden of unhappiness you feel is not a permanent state of the unchangeable world, but a direct result of the psychological framework you have subconsciously chosen to adopt? Tonight, we will intimately explore a radical philosophy that challenges everything we assume about complicated human relationships. It is a psychological perspective that requires immense bravery, but promises absolute freedom in return. Welcome to BookDream. Let us open a book that will fundamentally shift the way you walk through the world. To properly understand this necessary mental shift, we must first turn to the profound insights of Alfred Adler. Adler was a towering intellectual figure in the landscape of early 20th century psychiatry. Alongside Sigmund Freud and Carl Jung, he is widely recognized as one of the three great foundational pillars of modern psychology. However, while Freud's name became a global household word defining popular culture, Adler's theories remained somewhat hidden in the academic shadows until very recently. The philosophical dialogue we are exploring today was brilliantly captured in the massive Japanese bestseller, The Courage to be Disliked. This profound book distills Adler's dense psychological concepts into a simple, deeply penetrating conversation between a cynical, resentful youth and a wise, tranquil philosopher. And the greatest intellectual dividing line between Alfred Adler and Sigmund Freud lies entirely in their view of the human past. Freud championed the theory of etiology, the idea that our present emotional conditions are strictly determined by our past traumas and childhood experiences. In the standard Freudian worldview, if you are anxious or deeply unhappy today, it is directly because of an unchangeable wound inflicted during your early years. You are essentially framed as a passive victim of a rigid, unbreakable history. But Adler fundamentally and fiercely rejected this deterministic view of human nature. He introduced the radical concept of teleology, the study of purpose and future goals. Adler boldly declared that past trauma does not actually exist as a deterministic, controlling force over your life. Instead, he argued that we actively manufacture our current negative emotions to achieve our present subconscious goals. For example, you are not avoiding social interactions because you were deeply hurt in the past. According to Adlerian psychology, you are deliberately using the memory of that past hurt as a convenient, protective excuse to fulfill your current goal, avoiding the terrifying vulnerability of forming new relationships. This philosophy is an initially bitter pill to swallow, but it is ultimately deeply empowering. It means your future is not written by your trauma. You hold the absolute power to choose a completely different purpose at this exact moment. Once we accept that we are not passive victims of our past, we must confront the next major hurdle: other people. Adler famously stated that all human problems are fundamentally interpersonal relationship problems. If you were truly the only person existing in the universe, the concepts of loneliness, anxiety, and inferiority would simply vanish into thin air. They only exist in relation to others. To fundamentally solve these deep, interpersonal conflicts, the philosopher in the book introduces a brilliant, life-changing concept called the separation of tasks. Imagine a highly concerned mother forcing her unmotivated child to study for an upcoming math exam. The mother yells, threatens harsh punishments, and creates a highly toxic atmosphere in the home. Whose task is it really to study? The severe consequences of not studying, such as failing the exam or facing limited future options, ultimately fall entirely on the child's small shoulders. Therefore, studying is exclusively the child's task, not the mother's responsibility, and when the mother violently intrudes upon the child's task, she inevitably creates massive friction and deep resentment. Adler argues that nearly all of our social exhaustion comes from either intruding on other people's tasks or allowing others to violently intrude upon ours. You must learn to draw a firm, invisible boundary. If your boss is in a terrible mood because of a frustrating traffic jam, that it is his emotional task to resolve, not yours. You do not need to walk on eggshells or absorb his toxic energy to try and fix it. Similarly, if you passionately choose a career path that fulfills your soul, but your parents are deeply disappointed, their disappointment is entirely their task to process. You cannot live your one precious life trying to solve their complex emotional problems. When you finally master the separation of tasks, the heavy, suffocating fog of social obligation immediately lifts. You suddenly realize you are only responsible for your own genuine actions, and everything else is simply outside your control. This profound realization naturally leads us to the most provocative idea of the entire book, the true definition of freedom. We often incorrectly think of freedom as having massive financial wealth, boundless free time, or the privileged ability to heavily travel the world. But Adlerian psychology defines freedom in a much more intimate, psychological way. Freedom is simply the courage to be disliked by other people. When you are truly living on your own quiet terms, entirely guided by your authentic inner compass, you will inevitably clash with the standard expectations of the crowd. Someone, somewhere, will inevitably misunderstand you, judge your choices, or actively dislike you. If you are terrified of being disliked, you will spend your entire life acting as a masterful chameleon. You will constantly shift your colors and opinions to blend into whatever room you nervously walk into. You will become a disagreeable friend, but you will slowly lose the core essence of who you actually are. And having the tremendous courage to be disliked does not mean you should act like a reckless villain or intentionally hurt others for fun. It simply means you finally stop making the desperate desire for recognition the ultimate steering wheel of your life vehicle. It means calmly accepting that someone else's negative opinion of you is entirely their task to deal with, not yours to carefully manage and fix. The exact moment you genuinely stop seeking external approval, a profound silence washes over your tired mind. You no longer need to exhaustively perform a script written by society. You are finally free to write your own beautiful, unedited story. This is the ultimate form of self and respect. It demands immense daily courage, because stepping out of the warm, comfortable herd can feel incredibly cold and lonely at first. But that initial sharp chill is the vital, refreshing oxygen of a truly autonomous life. Tomorrow morning, when you finally step out of your front door, try a small psychological experiment. When you interact with a difficult coworker or a demanding family member, visualize a distinct, glowing line drawn on the floor between the two of you. Ask yourself quietly in your mind, whose task is this? If someone is unfairly directing raw anger or frustration at you, recognize that their inability to manage their own emotions is firmly on their side of the line. Do not casually step over the line to absorb their heavy emotional baggage. Conversely, carefully check yourself to ensure you are not stepping over the line to force your own expectations onto someone else. We cannot change the difficult past, and we cannot magically force other people to understand or appreciate us. But we can always choose exactly how we respond in the present moment, right here and now. And you do not need everyone in the entire world to like you. In fact, if absolutely no one dislikes you, it is a very strong indicator that you are not truly living your own authentic life. Having the sheer courage to be disliked is ultimately the profound courage to be happy. It is the incredibly brave decision to thoroughly reclaim ownership of your life's internal compass. As you lay your head down to rest tonight, take a deep breath and gently release the exhausting, endless need to perform for the nameless crowd. Let go of the heavy opinions you cannot possibly control. Allow yourself the profound grace to simply exist exactly as you are. If this deep philosophical journey brought you a moment of quiet clarity, please click the subscribe button below and turn on all notifications. Share your own personal reflections with us in the comments section. What is one burdensome task you are actively choosing to separate yourself from today? We read every single comment, and we are deeply grateful for your continuous presence in our community. Sleep well, completely let go of the external noise, and wake up tomorrow with the quiet courage to be free. This is BookDream, warmly wishing you a peaceful and transformative night.